Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Kurious K podcast. My name is Kolapo, and I'm your host. And as you know, this is the web3 series themed version of the podcast. And in the course of this series, I'll be having amazing conversation with founders, key stakeholders across the African continent and beyond on demystifying Web3 and the opportunities in the space. So the essence of this series is to explore the Web3 landscape. And the first series on this episode was focused on blockchain game. And in this episode, we'll explore Web3 application, decentralized autonomous organization, also known as DAO. And subsequent episode, we explored DeFi, stablecoins, privacy, and digital infrastructure, and the creator economy. So you should watch out for that. And this episode features Philip Nkwam, who is the technical lead on MIRAI research at Cyril Cancer Treatment Foundation. He also works as a technical trainer at the Bulb Africa. So Philip, welcome to Kurious K podcast. It's an honor to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul, for me.
Absolutely, it's great to have you. So how are you today?
I'm very well. Your technical things since we started the day, but it's going on perfectly well. Well, perfectly well. Yeah.
All right, great. So let's just start with getting to know you. So can you tell us or share with us your journey into tech?
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. My journey into tech. I started quite young. I mean, and so apparently, what I started with, a couple of things I started with, were not things I ended up with, and
Mm,
as though I've gone around the ecosystem and seen what I really love and following the advent of things. So when I was in my high school, I started out with ethical hacking in cybersecurity, right? And what I loved it then was the fact that I was able to get into my school system and pull out lots of exam questions and yeah, apparently.
really?
So yeah,
That's interesting.
so so that was where the passion came from the idea that oh, I can actually do any mischievous thing with tech, right? I can do anything I want. I can bypass anything, right? Break rules and all of those things. So that was where the interest and passion came from. Sadly, so and then when I was done, when I go into uni, going to medical school precisely, amazing. And for my first year, I started how to call front end. That was what I started out with. And by my 200 level, I started working with as a full-time employee of Lexitech. So at Lexitech, I was entirely focused on web dev, front end aspect, and but then because of my love for data, um, I decided. Okay, to be honest, one of the reasons why I stopped front end then was because of media query. And if you know media query well, it helps you with responsiveness of any website, right? So I had lots of issues with it, and it was so tiring having to fix all of those bugs. And I just decided, okay, you know what? It seems like this front end thing is not for me, right? And then I thought, okay, I want to go entirely into data. I want to explore data, not just data analysis or anything. I want to explore core data. And it led me to machine learning, having to study all of the algorithms and reading research papers, just exploring all of the things data can do, harnessing the power of data and algorithmic innovations, right? So that was literally where my interest stemmed from. And it was my love for data that got me into exploring the whole blockchain system because I mean somebody is telling you you can actually decentralize data. Oh, because of that data element, it really attracted me and I was so interested in it. And so what I do core now is core ML, right? Whatever an ML and the blockchain. Right. So that's entirely
So
using
ML, you're
dApps.
referring to machine learning, right?
Yes, machine learning, which is a subset of AI.
All right, great. I mean, thank you for sharing that, Philip. I think that's really interesting. And I mean, I just want to ask a follow up question in terms of I mean, your passion getting into, were you self-taught all through, or did you go through any structured program?
All right, when I tell most people this thing, I think they tend not to be because classroom person, even in high school, even in uni, I am not this classroom person. So all of the things I learned, everything entirely self-taught, entirely.
That's amazing. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's get into like the core ideas of Web3. I mean, when you were talking about data and you mentioned it's really exciting for you if data can be
Yeah.
decentralized. I mean, what can you do with that? So tell us, what are some of the core ideas? I mean, of Web3 as it were.
All right. So before we can actually explore the core ideas that were attractive, I mean, it's the whole polar thing about it, right? It's the whole core element about it. We need to start from the ground up, right? So the old Web3 comes from Web 1, right? Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. And so when the internet came about, we had the Web 1 era where so you could only see things on pages, click on hyperlinks, and only see things on pages like flyers, right? And then because of the limitations of these things, we proceeded to Web 2 where we had much more dynamic and interactive pages where people can actually lodge their data. Compared to Web 1, we just saw static pages. We could not impute anything. So the creator on the other hand, or the developer on the other hand, could not actually harness any data, right? Except if US. So they could not harness any data. Compared to the Web 2 era where we had interactive and dynamic pages, where we had lots of people impute data. And so it's consequently the creators or the developers have to gather a whole lot of data from the users, imputing all of these informations because dynamic and interactive pages. And then this led to lots of harmful things, right? People began to explore the data we get from users and do lots of things with them, right? We've seen hard, we've seen lots of cyber, issues that comes from the fact that, okay, creators have data from people. And one of the most complex things as a machine learning engineer, sometimes I realized that most of all of these algorithms, for example, I'll pull out the TikTok recommended system algorithm. So recommended system algorithms are the likes of these algorithms that you feed in with data and recommend things to users, right? So because of all of the data that we're gathering from people, they can actually predict the psychology of those people, right?
Mm.
So because I can predict your psychology, I can pull you all around here and there, the whole ecosystem. So it's Web 2 resulted to people's mind, consumers' mind being manipulated, right? So that was the core point for me, right? That was the core point, the fact that many people can actually get this data and manipulate human minds. I mean, if you know, there is a course currently that I really love, right? There is a course where I Stanford University called Symbolic Systems, right? Symbolic system focuses on human mind psychology and how you can infuse that with AI and ML, right? Core ML. So you can actually understand how people think, right? And implement it into an AI system, gather their data. And so because of, yeah, literally, amazing but manipulative things. So knowing all of these things, I just resulted, okay, you know what? I heard about the blockchain. I mean, it started off as this crypto thing that can be hosted on several nodes and not a central server. So there is no
So, so,
central
so,
authority.
so what do you mean by nodes? I mean, for the non-tech uh, listener
All right,
trying
all
to
right,
just follow up with the conversation.
all right, good. So just imagine you break, you have a whole glass, right? And that glass, right, into several pieces.
Mm,
So you
yeah.
move like a central glass to a distributed glass. So node, the idea of nodes came from what we call distributed systems, right? And the idea of distributed systems is you don't necessarily have to have one central authority managing everything. You don't have to have one central server managing everything. So you can split a server and we can distribute a server. That's the idea. You can distribute a server so much so that every single person, which is a node in that network, is a participant. All of them make up the central server. So it's not peculiar to one particular central authority. Okay. So The node is just like that broken glass, that piece of the broken glass, right? That make what is it's distributed across several people, several pieces that make up the whole network, right? So that's the idea of,
Amazing.
yeah, it's called from a distributed system. Yeah.
Great. All right. Yeah. So, and I think people also talk about like Web3. I mean, you mentioned control. Uh,
Yeah.
you also mentioned who can also interact. People can be manipulated, but I mean,
Yeah.
Web3 can decentralize most of these things. And
Yeah.
people also say Web3 is trustless. I mean, it
Yeah.
operates incentives, for example. I mean, I was reading some things about it, and someone was referring to Uber, for example. All right,
Yeah.
Uber or Google, taking control of the whole world's data and all that. So, can you talk
Yeah.
about the Web3? Talk about Web3 as an economic mechanism. Giving people incentives instead of relying on trusted on third parties.
All right. So, I mean, there's a whole fuss around this party issue, and it's not just entirely about Uber. It's about Google. It's about Microsoft, because all of these people, they are very high end third party authorities, right? When a case study of Uber and how that compared to a decentralized system where you can have incentive to people. So let me talk about that. So the whole incentive structure around the blockchain ecosystem, it's it's one of the core protocols does that, right? Is Ethereum, right? So the Ethereum network works in such a way that every single transaction you make, right, on the blockchain, every transaction is a change of state in the blockchain, right? So for every change of state, which is a transaction on the blockchain, right, is stored in a block, right? And every block hosts all of these transactions. But you need to seal up a block before you can create a new block, right? So if you and I make transactions, we're sending anything, we're making changes on the state of the blockchain, up the whole transaction and validate the whole transaction. Who do that? We have what we call miners. So in the course of having to bundle all of these transactions in blocks, there is a particular thing you would find which is called a nonce. I mean, I don't want to go into the whole complexities, but I'm trying to simplify it at this point.
Yeah.
So there is a particular nonce you would have to find, right? And you can only based on certain computations. So you need high-end systems, very high computing machines, right, to do all of these things. And so that is what we call the miners. So these miners are those people that go through these computational challenges, right, just to find that particular nonce to validate the transaction. For every state you make on the Ethereum mainnet, right, which is a transaction you're making, you are charged for a gas fee. And where did gas fee came from? Gas fees came from what we call the Turing halting problem, right? So because the Ethereum network, the blockchain is a Turing-based machine, it follows the Turing laws, right? So what happens is that in the Turing machine, there is something we call the halting problem. And what is the halting problem? It's a law that states that no algorithm can precisely determine if a particular function would, um, a particular loop would be infinite or finite, right? So the halting problem literally states that no algorithm, nothing, right, can determine if a loop is infinite or finite. So if you run a loop, right, you attach conditions to it. If you leave that loop like that, no algorithm mean if it's infinite or finite. So because we cannot build the whole blockchain around any infinite thing, and where nothing is being regulated, right? So we need to attach a regulation, a limitation on the blockchain, because halting problem is a problem of limitation. So you cannot limit things that happens on the blockchain. We need to do something. We need to create a limitation intentionally. So that was where the gas fee came from. If you don't have a gas fee, you can never change the state of anything on the blockchain. You can never make a transaction. So you need that gas fee. It's a very, very small, minute fee that you have to pay before you can do anything on the blockchain, right? So that's it.
All right, really interesting. All right. So, in terms of the core ideas of Web3 now, I mean, we can see it's decentralized. I mean, it is trustless, it has native payments, and it's also permissionless. I think there was the time I was hearing you speak and you mentioned maybe permission and permissionless network, but of course, we'll
Yeah.
get to that in the course of the conversation. All right. So, Philip, let us know. So, why is Web3 important? What is why? I mean, this is like new technology that is believed that is going to transform all industries. Why? Why is it important? What makes it so important?
All right, good. So how that pertaining to incentives, right? Gas fees can be paid to miners and all of those things, but I won't go into the complexities of that. But another way so important is to provide us to protect from cybersecurity issues, right? So if you have all of these trusted parties, if you have no, I won't say a trusted party, if you have all of these third party organizations, right? Security is not so guaranteed, right? And the security on the blockchain is so guaranteed because it's a trustless thing, it is entirely guaranteed. So one thing is it's all the security challenges surrounding the internet and the web ecosystem, right? Another thing,
So you can't have your system acting too easily, or banks can be acting too easily and get your money stolen and all that.
exactly. So in the blockchain we call it a cryptographically secured space, right? It's entirely secured cryptographs, right? A lot of mathematical computations that nobody can actually reverse them, right? So
Okay.
because it is cryptographically secured, right, we can actually, and that's why it's trustless. We can actually hold all of these things accountable and be like, okay, nothing can happen here because cryptography is literally sort of, compared to all of these people. And another thing, I mean, one of the advents of Web3 is what we call DIDs, right? We call them decentralized identities. Decentralized identity to access web, right, or to access anything. You just need to have a DID that only you own. Nobody owns it. Google, because your normal Google Earth or your Microsoft Earth, Google has hold of your data, Microsoft has hold of your data. But when you use your DIDs, your data belongs to you, right? So even if you're accessing lots of websites with your DID, which is your Earth instead of Google Earth or Microsoft Earth, right? You can use your DIDs to access anything, get into any website, register and log into any website, and your details. And the third important for is because of the advent of AI and ML, right? Because there are lots of violations also. Now, to restrict these violations to withhold their data, we need to allow consumers to have power over their data. So if they do not have power over their data, companies can literally manipulate it. So the idea of a blockchain and the node thing is that participating as a node in your blockchain, every single data you have belongs to you. It belongs to your node. Nobody else has it. The liberty to hold your data, right? And determine anything that happens to your data. If you want to sell your data, fine. If you want to hold it back, fine. Actually, one of the reasons. So we don't have to put all of our data in these central authorities. When it gets hacked, it's totally lost, right? And I mean, lots of these other things. These are just like the major things that I believe the blockchain really Web3 stands for. Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks for that. I mean, that's really powerful in terms of identity. There's a lot of identity theft. I think part of the thing you also reference is ownership.
Yeah.
I own my data, right? I don't have to, you know, store all my data with Google. I'm using Gmail. Gmail might wake up tomorrow and just kick me out of their billing
Yeah.
service, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But where through three gives me that ownership, and I think that's really important and powerful. All
Yeah.
right, yeah. So let's talk about how people can get involved. I mean, we have people listening right now. They're hearing a whole lot of things about the importance of Web3, this and that, the IDs. How can people get involved in Web3? What is the process like? What are the things that people can explore to be part of this amazing technology?
All right. Thank you so much for that. Pertaining to Web3 spaces, one of the core things, the primary thing is an interest, right? Yeah, it comes with first comes with an interest. You need to have that interest because I mean, you have to study a whole lot of things that happen in this space. So, once you have the interest, the first thing I believe you should study if you want to get into Web3, either as a spectator or as a developer, the first thing you need to do is to understand how the blockchain works, right? You need to understand entirely how the blockchain. You just study Ethereum, go to Ethereum website, study the white paper, and if you're a mathematical inclined person, study the yellow paper because the yellow paper is very, very technical. Has lots of all those mathematical algorithmic things, right? But then if you're starting out, just check out the white paper, the Bitcoin white paper and the Ethereum white paper, right? Get to know how the whole thing works because they document every single thing from A to Z, right? Every single thing that the blockchain entails, or the Ethereum blockchain entails, or Bitcoin entails, right? Or Binance, even Binance Smart Chain, right? You can study their white paper and understand how it works. But then, as a developer, if you want to start out as a developer in Web3 space, you can you can be this Web2 developer that can transition into Web3, right? Because even in Web3, the only difference is the fact that you're building a blockchain-based backend to a protocol. That's the difference. We still use the Web2 infrastructures. We use React. We use, I mean, Node. We use all of those things. We use Python. Literally, all of those things. So different. So even as a Web2 developer, like a normal developer, you can easily transition into Web3 space. The only thing you have to do first is the interest, and then afterwards, study how the blockchain works, study white papers, the Bitcoin white paper, the Ethereum white paper, and understand them. I believe you're good to go. And if you want to go forward, study Polygon. Understand how Polygon or
All right. So, what
yeah.
about communities? Are there communities you can recommend that you think? I mean, it's just amazing community people can join to learn, or communities they can find here and there.
All right. Yeah, there are actually lots of communities. And one of the things we're doing in the blockchain space is to make sure there are lots of educations like community or Hearn Web3 DAO. You can also look into Polygon, right? Polygon has a very wide community of developers. And you can also look into Alchemy. You can go to Twitter, check Alchemy, Alchemy. So check Alchemy University. Um, it just launched, right? So you can actually learn from zero to hero Web3, and then come on, you learn a whole lot. Another thing is Build Space. Build Space, they have an infrastructure around Web3 where you can learn to, right? So yeah, all of these people have their Discord communities, right? So you can join the Discord channel, meet lots of other people. But then more importantly, we have what we call DAOs, right? Those DAOs, many of them you pay to join them, developer DAO and all of these things. So that's it.
Okay, that's decentralized autonomous organized, and that's
Yeah.
actually, I mean, what I want you to talk about. So, tell us about DAOs. Can you just simplify what DAO means? So people just really get to understand what is DAO.
All right. If you want to understand what DAO means, right? You need to understand basic things. A DAO is just um is an entity, I think in the simplest form. It's an entity with no central leadership.
Hmm. Okay.
A DAO is simply an
So,
entity.
so, so who owns it?
Yeah.
The people own it. The community owns it.
Yes, the community owns it because behind every DAO is what we call a consensus mechanism, where if you want to take any decision, so ideally the DAO is an organization constructed by its own rules, right? So if you really want to do anything, you have to follow what we call a consensus mechanism, where every single the any decision you want to make pertaining to that particular organization has to come from 51% of people, right? So the larger the votes, the more viable the decision, right? So you don't make one central decision. You make unanimous decisions. Everybody makes decisions. So that's just a simple idea of a DAO, right? So yeah,
And
just
how
yeah.
and how does that connect to smart contracts?
Okay, good. So you need to understand what smart contracts are themselves, right? So a DAO is built into a smart contract.
Okay.
Yeah, but the whole ecosystem organization written into lines of code. So what you do is you write a smart contract. And I call it self-executing is because by the time you write it, you write all of the rules involved and you deploy it into any blockchain protocol. It self-executes. You can't modify it anymore. You cannot modify it anymore. So as long as it self-executes, nobody can change anything. Nobody can modify anything, right? So how it links is before you can build any DAO, a DAO is built on a blockchain, and a DAO is written into a smart contract, right? And that smart contract, which is self-executing, is deployed into a blockchain protocol, yeah, which is
Great.
the
So,
EVM, mostly
all right.
EVM.
Okay. So can I be part of a DAO without necessarily being a developer? Can I contribute to projects or be part of community? You know, building around different maybe Web3 applications and not necessarily be a developer. Does that work?
Oh yeah, it works. It works. I mean, the whole blockchain ecosystem, it's just like the normal ecosystem. We don't need only developers. There are community managers, there are lots of other people. There are graphic designers, there are UX, user experience designers, to lots of other things, right? So we have DAOs for UX developers. We have DAOs for UX design, designer DAO, designers DAO. So you can join that DAO as a UX designer. And yeah, you don't need to be a developer to join any DAO. Spectator, you can be a program manager or a product manager, right? So yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. I mean, let's talk about some of the interesting projects you worked on, Philly. That I know before we had this started this podcast. I mean, we were talking about the MIRAI research about cancer that you're working on. It would be great for us to learn more about that project.
So the idea of MIRAI came from so I just want to go from the beginning, right? So MIT published an article, um, MIT research precisely published an article on MIRAI. It was an algorithm they developed, and this algorithm was supposed to do what we call breast cancer risk assessment algorithm. So, from a simple mammogram, it can detect if a particular patient in the next 5 years, the risk of that patient having breast cancer in the next 5 years, right? And so they trained this algorithm and validated it across MGH, that's Massachusetts General Hospital, across Sweden and lots of other countries, European countries mostly, and none was validated in Africa. So I saw it, I saw um, all of the intricacies, and I reached out to Adam Yala. So Adam Yala and Regina Basile built it from scratch, and so we just talked to them, right? With Cyril, right? I was part of Cyril. I am part of Cyril team. So we just had a um, meeting with them, struck a partnership. Okay, we can actually validate this algorithm across our own data set. So we can gather data set from sub-Saharan Africa and validate this algorithm. So we see the performance of this algorithm on black populations, and you can know where you're building your infrastructure around. So, because if you have any problem with any algorithm doing cancer detection, one of the things we struggle, oncologists struggle with, is false positive and false negatives. Right? When
Mm.
somebody has, you said the person does not have, and the person does not have, and you said the person has it. Right? So, in order to mitigate all of those things and limit all of those things, right, we need to actually be part of it because at the end of the day, they would deploy this algorithm. It will be widely used. Trust me, this is MIT. They will sponsor this thing, and it will eventually come here and cause lots of havoc here because we knew we were stakeholders and we are part of this thing. We decided to just jump on that research, and I mean it's going pretty well and perfectly well. We had partnerships and hospitals here, in Lagos, Sub-Saharan Africa, so soon, yeah.
All right, thank you for talking about that. So, any other projects you want to talk about? You build on Web3.
Okay, so one exciting one which is still on the on we're still on it, right? But it should be coming out soon. It's Polypay. So Polypay is what I'm building currently. Polypay is a crypto exchange solution. It's a where you can buy, you can sell, and so there is no liquidity, right? There is no
Mm.
liquidity, but Uniswap stands at liquidity, right? So there is an integration of Uniswap where you can actually exchange tokens aside just so the principal thing is you're buying you're transferring crypto or your token to anything, to anybody in the world, right? So three core things: you can change your fiat to crypto, or crypto to fiat. You can um you can provide liquidity via Uniswap, and you can actually send crypto to anybody in the world, right? So it solves the whole payment solution thing. Instead of going through PayPal or anything, or Great Finance, you can actually just come on the website, transfer your fiat to crypto, transfer your crypto to anybody, right? That comes back to the website, just connect your, get the crypto, transfer it back to fiat. If you want to exchange to maybe Matic or you can do that before you transfer to your fiat, and then cash out, right? Withdraw to your local bank. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful. I think that's an amazing solution. I mean, if it makes it easy for people just to switch. And when you talk about crypto, do you mean what types of crypto are you talking about here on the platform? Is it just Bitcoin or other
No,
cryptocurrencies?
it's supported, right? You can have if
Okay. All right, great. Yeah. So, Philip, is there any other thing you'd like to share with us as we round off?
all right. So one of the things I actually like to advocate around your blockchain thing is people really need to understand where certain things. So, for example, we had this FTX collapse, right? Recently,
Mm.
and we had the Binance supposedly hack, and we really need to educate people about these things. How that these things do not compromise the blockchain structure, right? The blockchain is decentralized, it's trustless, it is still the same, it is not hackable, you can't hack into it. So we need to really let people know what really happened when these things happen. So pertaining to the Binance hack, it was not a hack on the smart chain, right? It was not a hack, it was not one hack on the particular blockchain itself, right? It was somebody who, because you can mint tokens, you can create your own tokens and provide liquidity for them on any blockchain, right? On any Ethereum blockchain, Binance blockchain. So you can mint it, you can create a token, mint as much as you need. Like it's like your own money, right? You can
Mm.
provide liquidity for it. So this particular guy, right, created his token, minted lots of tokens, right? And he did one thing. He named the token something similar to the Binance token, which is a BNB, right? So he named it something similar. And what he did was he minted lots of tokens, and because people saw, and people really need to understand core things they need to observe before they buy any token. So two things with loopholes were: number one, this particular guy, right, locked any transaction to be made with the token, right? So you can actually get the token, but there is a precise time you need to achieve before you can actually use that token. So it's locked, right? So first thing, you minted lots of tokens that was similar to that name, but not exactly that name of the Binance token. And another thing they did was he had the most amount of that particular token. And it's a problem, right? In any blockchain, in any protocol, if it's a consensus mechanism, right? It's a proof of stake mechanism where if somebody has the highest stake, it can actually overthrow the whole network, right? So he had the highest stake, and he could actually lock withdrawals, could actually lock anything you want to use that token to do, right? So lots of people bought those tokens, and because he had the highest stake, he could actually overthrow all of their token, collected everything, and because it already had liquidity, he had lots of orders, right? So he was able to gather all of this token back, and which is a valuable token, right? And because he could transfer them to ETH, it has lots of liquidity too, and he was able to pull out about $200 million out of I think $600 million. So he could not pull out the remaining 400 million because he didn't have the time. So he could actually pull out about 60 something ETH, right? Amounted to about $200 million, and he went away with it. So the wise thing is a precise token. Know when to buy a particular token. Know when somebody is holding a higher stake of a particular token. The same thing happens pertaining to this FTX, right? That was one of the loopholes.
Yeah.
FTX has about $8 billion dollars of this. I think $8 billion. Is $8 billion of this token, right? and somebody was holding about 3 billion. I mean, how does that work? 3 out of 8 billion, right? Definitely somebody is holding the and can actually overthrow the whole network. One of the things we realized was they could actually predict a peg, right? There was a time it was standing at $22. The FT was standing at $22. The static level. And that's the problem. You cannot influence any token. You cannot influence any token at all. You should not influence any. So a compromise, be it FTX, they are centralized exchanges. They are not decentralized. Despite the fact that they are holding crypto, right, providing liquidity, they decentralized. They are centralized exchanges.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that, Philip. I think I was reading something about it, and I think someone actually made a reference to the same point in terms of the integrity of the blockchain network is still there. It's still early, although there are some loopholes, and there's still a lot of opportunity on things that can be built. So thank you very much for sharing that. And thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's been an amazing conversation. All right. So everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And I would just like to end this episode with this very interesting quote I saw somewhere. And it says, if you're not paying for it, you're not the customer, you are the product. Thank you very much for listening. Kindly recommend this show to your friends, and please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast.